right, Brooke, how's it going today?
It's going well. It's going really well. I'm getting ready to actually go to an Orioles game with my lovely bride. So excited to see the O's are finally in first place. This doesn't happen very often.
Yes.
So excited to go down to downtown Baltimore and watch a little baseball.
Nice. That's a great park for you. I'm curious, though, to get us started here today, how did you originally connect with Ginger, who's our guest today?
You know what? I can actually remember it. I somehow, and Ginger probably knows the story better than I, but somehow they ended up, I think, reading the book, and then they ended up reaching out to me. And I remember I'm in a group called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. I remember I was driving to my retreat, and I think I spoke to Ginger and her husband Hunter for the entire drive up. And it was just one of those things. It was like a million miles an hour. Like we were just talking about so many great things with their business. And yeah, it was almost like a friendship instantly from that point. So, Ginger, did I get that right?
I agree. Yes. I originally talked to Brian, and Brian was like, "You have got to talk to Brooke." And so he connected us. And yep, I remember it well. We talked, and finally, I think Brooke was like, "Well, I've been sitting here in the parking lot for a little bit. I got to get off the phone after an hour and a half conversation." But yes, instant friendship.
Yep.
Nice. I know. Well, Ginger, welcome. We appreciate you and your time today. We really do. Thank you for joining us. This is going to be, I think, a really good one to kind of dive into the specifics. I've followed you from afar, and it seems like you've got a lot of things to share with everybody listening. So, like I said, we appreciate it. But if you don't mind, maybe could you give just a quick background, your company, Beach Ball, how things got started, where you stand today, and where maybe your background in the vacation rental business.
Absolutely. So, Ginger Harrelson, I'm owner and corporate counsel of Beach Ball Properties. We currently manage around 270 properties on the Alabama Gulf Coast, Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, and Fort Morgan. And a lot of our growth came organically in the beginning. We have been in business now for about 7 years. And we reached over 200 properties by social media and community marketing. And then it became kind of a bear for us to onboard and for us to keep up with these leads. And I'd heard of Vintory through a conference that I went to, and was a little hesitant because I was like, I don't know if I believe in direct mail because I'm a millennial. And a lot of times I get mailers and just throw them away and don't remember what they said at all. But the more I researched, the more that I found out it wasn't just about direct mail. And it was a CRM and a whole system. And so that's how Brooke and I got connected, and it's just been great ever since.
Right on. We appreciate that context. That's good. And yeah, I mean, Vintory is a lot more than direct mail, but maybe Brooke, we could also talk about the benefits of direct mail. I'm a millennial too, and like direct mail does work, but
Yeah,
maybe that's a different topic for a different day.
no, I'm a believer now for sure.
We've converted her. We've converted
Yeah.
her.
Well, I think some of her mistakes might be highlighting that. So we'll be talking about that shortly. Here, stay tuned. That's a little tease.
Yeah,
right.
no, that was a professional walk into the first one. So thank you, Brooke. That gets us going. So we're going to read through the mistakes that you shared. And also, Ginger, you were a contributor to the book as well. So that's fantastic. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But for right now, let me hit number one. So number one, the first mistake that you had listed was when you first started, you put all of your eggs into one basket for cleaning. So only having, it seems at the time, one subcontracting cleaning company. This one seems pretty straightforward, but what did you kind of learn from this mistake? How did you correct it later on in your business? And where does that stand today as far as having cleaning relationships?
That's correct. So we had one subcontractor, and it was spring break season right after we had just kind of gotten off the ground. We acquired a small book of business that had about 14 properties. And even in a short amount of time, through Hunter and I's connections and our outgoing energy, we had built it up, I think, by this point by 30, 35 properties. We were moving quickly into our first real season. And we'd hired a company, and we kept getting complaints. They weren't mopping the floors. They weren't changing the sheets. And I mean, it was consistent complaints, not just like a one-off thing. And so we reached out to this company and we said, hey, we would like to have a meeting. Like, we want to tell you our expectations and let's try to get on the same page. And instead of saying, okay, I'd be happy to sit down and meet with you, they said, oh, we're going to take our ball and go home, and we're not going to service your company anymore. And we're moving quickly. Again, this is right after spring break into summer season. So we were scrambling to try to find subcontractors that would take on our account. Because at that point, a lot of them had already staffed up for the season. So we were fortunate to be able to be connected with 3 other companies at that time who graciously decided to give us a chance and took us on, and we moved successfully through that first big season of ours, and it went well, but it was just kind of a shock and a big moment of panic because, these cleaning companies that were coming in to interview us, and we were like, please just take our accounts. And they had already staffed up. So it was difficult, but it worked out. But I would never do that again. I would never recommend anybody doing that.
Yeah, I think there's in general, and it doesn't matter what business you're in. I think that's a good rule of thumb, is not to have all your eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, not even necessarily in this industry, but in my previous life, I was in mortgage banking, and we would always rely on multiple different appraisal companies. We'd always rely on different title companies. But what I liked about it is we would almost get them to compete against each other. They would work against each other, or to earn our business, and they really wanted it. But it kind of kept them on their toes. If we had all of our business just going to them, they weren't really being held accountable. They knew they had us. But when you kind of get them competing, I think there's you definitely the end output is much better. And again, they don't have that gun to your head like it sounds like they did for you.
Yeah, and to make matters worse, after that happened, they went on to this Facebook group that was just cleaning companies in the area and said that we were difficult to work with. So the people that took us on were really taking a chance on us because all of them had read that in the group. And I still know all of their names and still talk to them on a regular basis because they came to our saving grace at the last minute. But yeah, they were taking a chance on us.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like unreasonable standards, like mopping the floor. Maybe that was too high of a bar for this old company to handle.
Yeah, I was about to say, we weren't difficult to work with. We just had expectations that they did not want to meet or could not meet for whatever reason. But
right. Nice. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that one didn't come up a lot, Brooke, in our previous conversations so far. And that's definitely a good story to tell. Obviously, it's about the cleaning side, but like you said, Brooke, that could apply to a lot of different services that you might use as a property manager. Well, let's head on over then to number 2. So number 2, waiting to start cleaning in-house until this year, I'm assuming that's 2023, would have been much more manageable at 100 properties. So I guess this is kind of a continuation from number 1. How did that evolve? Where does it stand today as far as in-house cleaning? How'd you structure that? Why would you have done it earlier if you would have?
Well, the main reason is because it's just been kind of overwhelming to level up. This is a whole new business outside of our property management business. Yes, it's tied into it, but it requires inventory of sheets and inventory of equipment. We're building a 4,000 square foot state-of-the-art cleaning facility in Foley to do the laundry, our own laundry. It would have been easier if we would have done this at 100 properties and been able to kind of slow roll it as far as like the capital that we've had to invest and just being on our toes all the time this season and just trying to get the hiccups out. But we're so happy that we did because we've gotten almost all of our properties in-house now, and it's just been much smoother. Like there's been way less complaints. The quality control is there. We have people that answer to us as far as the inspections and the cleaners. And they know what our expectation is, and it's not like playing telephone. But I just think it would have been easier to start this part of our business earlier.
It's interesting. We fully outsourced ours. We never had an in-house cleaning. And same thing with when I went down to Orlando with All Star. Same thing. We outsourced. We used the kind of competing method that you talked about in number 1. But this was a common one. I think there was Andrew with Joseph Ellen Properties talked about the same thing. Brian Olson said this was a big mistake he made, was waiting too long. And then even Andy with Sea Change out in Rehoboth Beach, he made the same comment. So there's obviously some common themes here. For me, it was easier just to manage the contractors and not have to manage, all the internal employees and things like that. But it sounds like maybe I did. Maybe I made a mistake too. So we'll see.
And it wasn't just about the revenue, which obviously we were sending a ton of money. I mean, over $1 million we sent out the door last year during summer on cleaning. It was about the quality control and like not feeling like we could enforce our subcontractor to come back down and correct a clean, or we could say, well, you're only getting paid this amount because you didn't do a full clean. It just having that fighting back and forth. We were like, we can do this and we can do it better. And we have been able to through hiring the right people to run that portion of our business, because I can tell you, Hunter and I are not doing cleaner schedules. We don't have enough time in the day to do that. So we've been able to make a phenomenal few hires that have really like launched this secondary business for us.
Is it a profit center for you too?
It is. We're turning about 30%.
Wow.
right now.
That's
So
great.
we, again, had the chance to do it again. We would have done it earlier. So even with, I mean, right now we're reinvesting because we're trying to get up to 3 par for all of our properties for every bedroom. So it feels like every time we're making money, we're spending it to get more inventory, but it's doing very well.
That's great.
Right on. Well, let's head on over to number 3 then. Ginger, it's kind of a similar thing about team and building out a team. So number 3, not hiring VAs, virtual assistants sooner. So what was kind of that process like? When did you start to hire virtual assistants, and what do they do inside your business today?
So we did not hire virtual assistants until January of this past year, and right now they do a lot of, what the reservations team does. And at first we only had them on at nighttime hours. We only had 2, and I think now we're up to 6. And some of them answer during the day. They take reservations. They respond to Verbo and Airbnb messaging requests. They answer emails. They send out quotes. They communicate with owners if we need them to. We were about to start teaching them how to help us do some of the onboarding, like the mundane tasks, like uploading photographs and doing some of the descriptions. But that comes more after Labor Day. But we're excited to see if they can help us with the onboarding process as well. But right now, primarily, they're doing reservation type tasks, putting in work orders for maintenance as well too.
Yeah, this was one of my top 10 mistakes I actually made too. Was kind of that short-sighted thinking. First, that just I thought everybody needed to be in my office,
Exactly.
and secondly, not taking advantage of VAs. I've since changed my tune, and we're big fans of Extend Team. Shout out to Ari and everybody over there. They do a great job. And we have, I think, 6 or 7 workers right now that are based in the Philippines that are just absolutely fantastic. We treat them like normal employees. They're not any different. They're not second-class citizens or anything. They are full-on employees of ours, and they do an incredible job. And for 70% off of what we're paying kind of US-based employees. But yeah, if I were building a vacation rental management company right now, I'd be leveraging the heck out of remote workers, especially virtual assistants overseas.
I agree. And we actually use Rocket Station, but we've been very satisfied with their product and with their VAs and with their process. And they've actually helped us build out some SOP procedures that we didn't have in writing before, and do some videos that have helped train people that we've hired here. But I think our hesitancy at first is like you, Brooke, like Hunter and I are like, we want to employ locals and we want to employ, have a community around us. And that works to a certain extent. But when you have the call volume that we've reached now, you just can't have everyone in the office answering phones all the time, number one. And number two, we live in a resort town. So the minimum housing here is 300,000+. It's hard to get anybody at a value rate, right, to answer phones. So it's just been an affordable way to expand our business.
Yeah, right on. I think, a lot of different clients that we work with have leveraged this, and it makes a huge difference. There's definitely a lot of things that can be done in that way. And like you said, Brooke, the cost savings, you can't ignore it. And it ultimately makes the business a lot more efficient. That's for sure as well. Well, let's head over to number 4 then, Ginger. Number 4, not trusting my gut as far as personnel issues, keeping people on our team when they should have been fired or moved to different departments. So we talked about this one a bit, but I guess we'd love to hear your story. What was kind of the path that you had to go down to find maybe an employee that wasn't a right fit? How did you later correct that issue? And what's kind of your philosophy today on getting the right people in the right seat, which is kind of what we've been talking about?
Well, there's one in particular that I think of every time I reread this list, and she was just chronically late, like 15 minutes late every single day. And we just can't, to be honest, her husband was one of our cleaning contractors, so we didn't want to fire her. And she wasn't a great employee. She came back on the cultural index, and we can talk about that in a second, is not being a great fit for any position. We moved her around our office, and we ultimately had to terminate her employment with our company I don't know, 6 months ago or so. And I hate to say it, but it's like no one even missed a beat, and we don't even think about her that much anymore. It's a relief that someone's not there and that is obviously and openly disrespectful to the other people in the office, if that makes sense. But I knew that a long time ago. I knew that she wasn't a fit for our company anymore, but we kind of held on to her due to that other relationship, and it wasn't worth it. We should have cut our losses a long time ago.
I feel like almost everybody has one or two people, unfortunately, on the team that you just know they need to go,
Mm-hmm.
but it sucks.
Yeah,
Firing people absolutely sucks. It's one of the worst things of my job,
that's
but in
horrible.
the end, I feel like you're actually doing them a disservice by keeping them on the team. Cause you know what? They're probably miserable too.
Yeah.
And it's like, help them find the job that they need to be at. And that's the way I look at it. And someone once said, look, firing people sucks, but it's like 36 hours of suck. And then it's fine. Then it goes back to, like you said, it's like nobody ever really missed them when it was all said and done. But Elaine Stitcher agreed with you. I mean, it almost like you guys were talking to each other. Her quote was in the book, not listening to my gut when hiring, and hiring for experience, skill rather than culture. 9 times out of 10, your gut doesn't let you down. And she just kind of reiterated that. So it's go with that gut. That's that intuition is spot on 9 times out of 10.
And when that intuition speaks to you over and over again and you keep ignoring it, it makes it worse, and it just prolongs the hurt and the amount of pain that you have to go through.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just like, when a relationship's over, it's over, and you need to do the breakup. As much as that hurts then, you need to do it as soon as you can.
Yeah. I found that I actually have like an accountability group. I'm in this group, EO Entrepreneurs Organization, and we get together once a month. And it's like, if I have to make that decision, I have to do that one thing. I always kind of like, all right, guys, I'm going to do this by next month. And it might be the day before my next meeting. And I'm like, oh shoot, I got to do this, just because it's, you have that accountability partner. Sometimes it's helps you force you to do those things that are uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of flipping the coin then, Ginger. So instead of getting rid of people, it's about people joining. So mistake number 5, waiting until we were overwhelmed before making a hire in numerous departments. So how overwhelmed was the overwhelm, and what was your path to actually hiring people into the team and integrating them, and what a relief that might have been when you did the right thing? Yeah.
I don't even know if there's a word for overwhelmed. Seems like not adequate word at one point in our business, when especially like the last 2 years, we've just experienced phenomenal growth and not having enough maintenance people, not having enough reservationists, not having enough whatever. It just got to a point where Hunter and I were both so burnt out, and it's just like issue after issue. And it's finally like, we need more people. Like, that's the solution. We've got to start delegating and delegating sooner. So for us, we're a seasonal market. We're in the beach, and we always kind of don't want to hire at the beginning of the year. We want to try to push it out as close to spring break because we know that money's coming in the summer. And we just try to do that. But at some point, you just got to say, no, this is worth my sanity. You do know that money's coming. You're going to be able to depend on it then. Let's go ahead and get these people in here, get them trained up, and alleviate some of this pressure that's on us.
Yeah, it's funny. This is a little bit contrary to, the mantra we heard a lot from the hire slow, fire fast all the time, but it's right. And it reminds me of, I'm a big follower of this guy, Jason Lemkin. He does a lot of SaaS posts and things like that, SaaS community called SaaSter. And he talks about, like, when you are burned out and you are just exhausted, the best thing that you can do is just hire a really good key employee to take some of that stuff off of your table. And that helps out immensely. And it is amazing. We're just getting one key hire, how much that can really help you when it's all said and done.
Yeah, like for me, for the first few years in our business, I did absolutely all of the marketing. When I say absolutely everything, I uploaded the pictures, I did the property descriptions, I did the picture captions, I did Facebook, I did everything. And now we have 3 other people that help me with that. And they're like, how did you ever do this as one person? And I'm like, I don't know, because I had to. We didn't have money to have anybody else, but it's such a time suck. And I see so many people that are on that verge of financial freedom and financial success, and they say, oh, I can't hire because I don't want to spend $75,000. I don't want to spend $50,000. And it's not about like what you're spending. It's about how much money is that person going to make you. And even if they're not doing it like you're doing it 100%, if they could do it 75% what you would do, that's worth it.
Yeah. Well, and then it could be accretive if they are bringing in more revenue, or it allows you to then focus on those areas of going out and getting new owners, going out there and, getting additional reservations and things like that. Then it becomes an accretive person and not necessarily just a money suck.
Right.
Yeah, and you're freeing up a lot of time too. Like you were saying, Ginger, when you started giving away those tasks, like more time was freed up in your schedule, partially to reserve your sanity, and then the rest is like, okay, now I have time to actually grow and do the things I need to do for sure.
Right. And it frees up our time to do things that make the business more money, which is,
Right.
meeting high profile clients or networking or doing whatever, being the face of the brand. You can't be the face of the brand and have to upload photography to 4 different platforms or whatever. That's a mundane task that can be delegated and should be delegated.
Yeah. There's a book actually, I just finished a little while ago called Buy Back Your Time. It's by I'm forgetting the author's name right now. Dan Martell. Sorry, I had to find it on my bookshelf. I was like, which one is it over there? And he talks about replacement rate, which is basically like at some point you can calculate how much your time is worth and you can kind of figure it out. And then you're like, if I could just outsource this for $20 an hour, $30 an hour, I'm actually making money on that, especially because I'm going to get freed up. So that's a good rec. If people are looking for how do I know when to do that, that's a good book to look at. Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. All right, well, let's head on over to number 6 then, if we could. And this one's kind of a different direction, maybe a good one, really good one here, Brooke, to us to dive into a little bit more.
For the record, this was not planted by. I did not seed this. I did not plan this. This was all Ginger.
Not a paid endorsement.
Yeah.
What the
She's not on the payroll.
Yeah, what the listeners can't see in a chat is there was a Venmo link that I just saw being shared in the chat. And no, I'm just kidding. All right, so number 6, we'll tee it up here. Not using a CRM to keep up with lead generation for owner acquisition. All right, Ginger, what was the CRM that you chose? How did this help you grow your business?
Well, the CRM we chose was Vintory, and it's just helped as far as everyone on our team can now see everything that's going on with, onboarding or with, prospects. They can check the CRM and see what stage we're in with that person and not have to say, hey, Ginger and Hunter, did you sign this contract? Whatever questions that they need to ask us. But we were doing like sticky notes and sending emails that said information about beach ball properties. And that's literally the only way we were keeping up with anything. And I laugh about it now because I'm like, how did we do that for so long? It can be done, but once you reach a certain scale, it's impossible to continue on like that without any organization or without any automation. So, we've been very happy Vintory customers, obviously.
Well, thank you, Ginger. Obviously, there's many CRMs out there. There obviously not really many for the short-term vacation rental space, but they're Salesforce and HubSpot and things like that. But one thing that you just mentioned there, I will kind of double click on, is we also have like an onboarding pipeline too. So onboarding properties is a pain. It's hard. There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of steps. I mean, there's a lot of logistics of it. So one little just kind of soft plug for Vintory. And Ginger, you're happy to talk about it. We have an onboarding pipeline as well. So it kind of helps you the logistics of that onboarding process as well. So do you guys leverage that tool within the platform?
I'm excited to figure out more about it this season. So we've only onboarded about 10 properties during the summer. That's pretty typical with our market. People are not switching hands during the middle of the summer. But last year during off season, we onboarded over almost 70 properties, and we're expecting probably 100 or more this off season. We'll see, but just based on projections. So our team met with Autumn, who's our Vintory rep, and today, and so we are building out that pipeline and educating the people that are going to be working the leads and the sales on how to do that. So I will update you after onboarding season is underway, but I think it's going to be a great tool this year.
Awesome.
That's a good stress test there, Brooke. Sending 100 units through it in a short period of time, we'll really learn, exactly the pieces that can be built even better.
Give us some feedback on that onboarding pipeline. It's really cool because it'll automatically like send your photographer a text message, or it'll send your marketing person a task and an email to load onto the platforms, load onto your website. It organizes all those steps involved in the process of onboarding a new property and just makes it really simple. So it's a big time suck, and it's a big pain in the butt. So we hope to make it a little bit less sucky. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And I heard an interesting statistic the other day that said, the first 90 days of whatever contract that you enter are the most important. And so for onboarding, you got to get it right in those first few months, because a lot of times they've signed on with you, but they still have enough time if you're not communicating right, or you haven't done something you said you were going to do, or you haven't gotten the property up on Verba, or whatever that issue is. that they could theoretically jump, especially if they come right after Labor Day, because there's a long time till March, which is kind of the spring break kickoff the year for us. So as a seasonal market, it's important. And for us, it's important to get it right those first 90 days.
I couldn't agree more. Onboarding is mission critical, 100%.
Yeah. And ultimately, the sooner you get that property on board, the sooner both sides make money, right? The sooner you guys can start to collect, the sooner the owner is going to start to see bookings in the door. Then they're going to be a lot happier. Okay, yep, I see progress. And then we can come back to it in the future for sure.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, we're going to head in a slightly different direction, I think, here for number 7, different kind of area of the business, if you will. Number 7 from Ginger, not bringing real estate in-house sooner. So what was kind of the path here to bringing the real estate in-house? What was the thought process like? And what's that doing today for the business compared to before?
So when we first started roughly 7 years ago, kind of our shtick was we don't do real estate sales. So real estate agents were more likely to refer us business. Made sense for us. We paid realtor referrals. We still pay realtor referrals, but it got to a point last year where we looked at our numbers and our organic in the door and our Vintory in the door, the amount of properties we brought in just from direct mail marketing and through word of mouth and Google far, far outweighed the properties we were receiving from realtors, like by 90 to 10%, like a huge difference. And we just saw an opportunity. Our broker, Bob, he's been down here doing real estate for like 40 years. And he's a grandfather of real estate. And he wanted to kind of build this portion of our business out. And it just made sense for us to do it. And now we have built relationships with these 270 homeowners. And if, sometimes it's a situation where these people didn't even know a real estate agent when they bought a condo down here. They just said, hey, I vacationed in Gulf Shores, Google real estate agent. The real estate agent serviced them and they haven't heard from them since, but they've been working with us for 5 years. Just a situation. Well, they want to use us and okay, we'll service you. We can do that now. Of course, if they have an established relationship with their real estate agent, we don't want to intrude on that. But for the people that come to us and want to do this, it's been beneficial and it's allowed us to keep more inventory in-house and for us to be at the table when that inventory switches hands. Because if you're not representing buyers and sellers, you're not in that conversation, the closing table. So you're relying on them finding you through direct mail marketing, organic, whatever. But if you can already kind of be part of that transaction, then you have a higher chance of keeping that property or getting a new one. But we have now, I think, 4 or 5. I think we hired somebody else yesterday, real estate commission based. We're a full brokerage now, so it's been helpful.
How involved, Ginger, are you in managing and overseeing that real estate team, or is broker Bob really the one that's overseeing the majority of it?
Broker Bob is overseeing the majority of it, so it's great. I mean, it's the agents are making the most money on the transaction. They're only paying us a small percentage of that, but still to be able to keep the inventory in, and for us to make even a small percentage while doing nothing except using our name and our resources, which is something, but not everything. It's worth it for us.
So when I started Vantage way back, 2007, good time to start a real estate company. Here I am. I'm hiring a manager. I'm hiring a bunch of agents, but I feel like the only agents I could hire was like the bad news bears of real estate agents in our market. Anyone that was struggling somewhere, they would come to us. And before you know it, I had this sales manager. I had about a dozen agents, and we were closing nothing. And I was spending 80% of my time trying to build up this real estate division in a 2007, 2008 in the worst, market ever for real estate. But yet the rental company, the rental side of it is growing super fast. So I'm spending 80, 90% of my time on real estate. It's accounting for about 5% of my revenue, and then the rental business is thriving. So finally, after like a year or two, I finally said enough of this. So I actually partnered, it sounds a little bit similar to what you did, but I actually ended up getting rid of the entire real estate division. And I partnered with the 2 top agents in our market. And I said, look, you guys do all the sales. I'm going to focus on rentals. And we're going to, I will pay you a referral fee. We gave them kind of like a really sweetheart deal on split. They paid us, a per kind of file fee. And they paid us a referral for obviously anything that we sent over. So, we were making 25% commissions, on these deals where we did nothing with. And we were able to focus really just on the core business. and they were sending us tons of referrals, and they had the lion's share of inventory. They sold 98% of the inventory in one of the communities we wanted to really break into. So we got all those referrals, and it was probably instantly, it was like $180,000 switch, from loss to profits just from making that. And it allowed me to kind of go in that riches and niches, focus on one thing, be the best on the planet, let others kind of focus on what they do best. And that was it was a huge learning lesson for us that really paid off big dividends in the long run.
I will say, Hunter and I, we were like, we'll do it. We'll support you. But like, we are not going to be the person that or the people that agents answer to. Like, it's got to be you, Bob. And he was like, I want to do it. I've done this before. He's had 2 other brokerages down here that he built from zero to, great, sold off, whatever. But we've actually had people approach us. One, she's a lady that works at the Wharf, which is kind of the big development down here. It's shopping, concerts, Ferris wheel, kind of like our downtown. There's not really a downtown Orange Beach, but she found us and was like, I see y'all's name, your brand everywhere. I'm starting out my real estate journey. I want to come work as a realtor for y'all. And we're like, okay, well, we don't really have like a huge lead book. Do you understand this? She was like, yes. Well, she had a $2 million listing just sell. And I'm like, incredible. Like, just not even trying all that hard, but it's connections, friends that she had in Fairhope, which is a little north of us, but is a retirement community. And she is just tickled, and we're tickled for her. And I'm sure we'll see more out of her, but she's now interested in kind of nurturing some of the property management leads. And we're paying her. I said, we'll pay you in-house referral. Like, if we send you a lead and you get them to sign on our program, $200 a bedroom, let's do it. And she's like, yes, I want to help like build your rental book too. So we'll see how it works this onboarding season, but I have high hopes for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the common thread in both those stories, Brooke, is that in one case in-house, in one case maybe not necessarily in-house, but the right people in both scenarios, partnering with the right people, and that's ultimately what got the job done. And it sounds like your earlier story, Brooke, was not having the right people in place, and then once that was fixed, changing the arrangement, and then it flourished.
Yeah. Well, it allowed me to focus on my core business, which really was the rental business,
Right on.
Yeah, we should do this again in a year, and I can tell you how I really feel after it's been full force for a year, because this is a more recent development for us. We've just now, within the last 6 months, started doing full real estate sales and buying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important context, I think, too, for the listener, right? It's like, I think people we've had in the show, Brooke, we haven't really talked about this a ton, but I'm sure, maybe you're even saying the same thing right now, Ginger. It's not, people we have aren't saying that they figured everything out and then it's easy and it's all just going to be smooth sailing from here on out. It's just like, here's some scars that I've gained along the way. And let's be honest, you're probably going to make more mistakes in the future, but if we can limit them, or at least limit the damage, then we can see how to fix things even better, make them even better in the future.
That's right. I might come back a year from now and be like, Brooke, I should have listened to your story. That was a shiny object. We should have just been focused on vacation rentals. I've been distracted this last year. I don't know what I'm going to say, but we'll see.
We'll see. All right. TBD on that one, but that's kind of where we have the path at the moment. All right, so number 8 is kind of a different one as well. Waiting too long to go to summits and conferences. Networking is important. Mm-hmm. So tell us about this, Ginger. Obviously, there was kind of a time more public or more networky. Now there's this kind of post time. What was the switch, and how has it benefited you in the business?
So the first conference we ever went to was Stream Summit, and I don't know if it was 4 years ago, I believe. I think it was right when Vintory was getting started as well, because it was the first time I'd ever heard of Vintory, and the first time I'd heard Brooke speak. I went to his acquisition presentation, but that was the first one we went to. And I'll be honest, it was a big conference. We didn't know anybody there. We didn't have many relationships in the industry yet. Now, granted, we were pretty new business, and we've been able to build our business extremely fast. But after we went to that conference, I was kind of like, I don't know, like, was that worth the money to go to Scottsdale? And I don't think that we were working hard enough to make the networking work at the conference. But then the next one we went to, I was like, okay, this is 100% worth it. We know more people. We've been around longer. People know who we are. So they were like requesting meetings, and it grew and grew. So I think that's an important point too. If you go to one conference and it wasn't a fit for you, or you didn't think you took home a lot of information, try a different one, or go back the next year, or, before you go, make a plan to meet with so-and-so, make a list of people you want to try to meet with before you go, and kind of have that forethought of this is an intentional thing I'm going to do. I'm spending time and money, and this is what I want to gain from it, and have that in your mind before you get to wherever you're going. But I'll 100% say, like, going to Burma this past year, and connecting not only with Brooke, Travis, all the people at the 100 collection, and kind of that network, has been instrumental this past year of just being able to feel like we have people we can call on when we are having a problem. And some of that has been through, the 100 collection. A lot of it has been through Brooke and Vintory and CJ Stam. That's how we met him. And he has kind of mentored my husband, Hunter, a little bit on some things. So, yes, there are people that are going through what you're going through. And to get to know them, you've got to go to networking events.
I love that. I never heard that before, the proactive nature of it. Like, actually going, it's brilliant. It makes sense, rather than just being passive and just attend and just, but actually going out there and being proactive, making a list of who you want to meet with, make a list of what are your takeaways you want to walk away with. I think that's a great point that I don't think enough people do. But yeah, I mean, Conrad, we've heard about this in the book. I mean, I think there was half the contributors to the book, Ginger, talked about networking and conferences and just how important it was. It was a big mistake they made, actually, that they didn't do it soon enough.
Yeah.
And you get that kind of, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, Ginger, please.
You get that kind of unfiltered opinion, right? You're one-on-one, face-to-face with someone that's doing the same thing you're doing. So you're like, is this product working for you? Like, what do you feel about, Vintory, or what do you feel about Streamline, or whoever you're using? And it's not like over an email, so it's not in writing. You really get to see people's face and their expression, and is it genuine, and get those insights that you will not get unless you're face-to-face.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that the only difference between where you are and where you want to be, the only gap you pretty much have at some point is knowledge. So I think going to these conferences, events, talking to people, you can pick up all this knowledge, and then you're like, here's where I am, here's where I want to be, here's all the steps I need to take between, and then you know where you're going. I think the time before that is like, well, if you don't know what to do, if you're missing the knowledge of the steps I need to take to get to wherever I'm trying to go, then no amount of like hard work is actually going to solve it. Like, what you actually need sometimes is knowledge, not more like harder effort or something like that. So that's always the way that I see it, is that when I go, sometimes I learn something, and then the thing I learn, easily pays for that cost or investment or whatever. And then we're in a better space later down because I knew what to do once I went to that conference or event. So.
And some of the greatest takeaways are usually, they're not in the session. They're usually at 10 PM at the bar. Mm-hmm. That's usually where the greatest takeaways are usually from.
Yeah, but no, I mean, we don't ever see you at that scenario. So it's all good, Brooke.
Never. Neither one of us are ever at the bar.
No. I've never seen.
We believe in this so much that this year we're taking. So to Stream Summit, I'm taking 6 other female representatives from our office. We're doing a girls' beach ball trip, and then to Burma, we're also taking mixed team, but I think we have 8 going to that conference. But this will be the first year we've brought any of our team to conferences with us. But we're bringing our head of maintenance and some people that you probably would not normally see at a conference, people that are like boots on the ground. And I'm excited to see like what they think of the conference life and if they gain anything that is helpful to them in their jobs. So
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, I bet they will. I mean, I bet my bank account that they're going to learn something that's going to later improve the business for sure. Right on. Well, okay. In the interest of time, we'll move on to number 9 here. So coming back to closing our loop that we opened earlier. Number 9, not utilizing direct mail for owner acquisition. So you joked, I think, Ginger, when we started recording, why we're going to do direct mail. There's no way. And then you've kind of come around on it. So what's that journey been like? And what's your philosophy today on direct mail?
Well, my philosophy today is direct mail 100% works. My initial philosophy was maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Even after we signed up with Vintory, I was sold a Vintory mainly for the CRM system. And I thought, well, if the direct mail works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll see. We'll quit sending out as many postcards as we're sending out. Not even 4 months into this journey with Vintory, we had a homeowner that requested to meet with us. She had a direct beachfront home and one across the street on the lagoon. Both of them are $100,000+ producers. One of them, I think, got to 175 this year, if I'm recalling correctly. I mean, beautiful homes that are prime in our market. And we had sent, I think, 4 mailers out at that point. She had 2 of them. on her dining room table. And she is an older lady, and they have investment properties throughout the United States, North Carolina, Arizona. She's a true investor, one of the best types of clients that you want. But the only way she knew about us was through the mailer. And I was like, oh, and I sent Brooke a text message of the picture of both homes. And then I think I even might have sent I don't know if I got a picture of the mailer on her dining room table, but I was like, here, this. Thank you.
All right, it works.
Vintory paid for itself for the entire year with that homeowner acquisition right there. So I don't know what else I can say. That's the best plug I can give. But
mic drop.
Direct mail still works.
It works. Yeah, I don't know much more to say than that, but it does work. It just the key though very often is it's just you have to be consistent. Very often what we find is people will send one direct mail, will send out one letter, and they stop and they're like, oh, it didn't work. I didn't get any calls. But the irony is they may even get a call a year or a year and a half or even 2 years later. We have tracking codes on all these phone numbers, and we see very often them calling like months, if not years later. Mm-hmm. It's a shame. So yeah, you got to be consistent with it, but it does work, 100%.
And I think two things on that, Brooke. First of all, a lot of people don't use the tracking numbers. I've had clients say that to me in the past. Oh, this doesn't work. And then I later learned they didn't use a tracking number, so they wouldn't really know if it worked, and they're not asking the lead source how'd you hear about us, that sort of thing. And I would say the second thing to that is it is building brand awareness, even if that postcard itself isn't actually what drove that person to call you in that exact moment, the day they got it. It's something where later on they may recall, oh yeah, I know there's a company in this market that does what I'm after here, in this case, property management. And then they later just go into Google and do a branded search like Beachwell Properties. Yeah. So Google gets the credit for that. But I always say this too, on our side of things, no one ever just wakes up and says, I'm going to Google Beachwell Properties. There was some event that happened previous to that made them think of the company. And it could have been direct mail, it could have been a past guest, it could have been a million things, right? But the brand awareness piece, I think, is always understated there too, is that you have to have your target, market be aware of you. And direct mail is one way to do that. Even if they never call the number on the postcard, it's still doing some level of that job, for sure.
Spot on. Yeah. I heard one person describe this, a marketing person describe this as every single person you're targeting is on the buyer journey in one phase, whether it's on the very, very far left where it's just, you're just trying to get awareness, or all the way where they're ready to make a commitment. They're ready to make a switch. They something happened to them that upset them with their current management company, or they just bought the property. All you're trying to do on every one of those touch points is just move them one step closer. So if they're far left, you're just trying to nudge them a little bit. Maybe then, 6 months from now, they're ready and then they do fill out a form. But we do see time and time again, even if they don't use those tracking codes, or even if they don't use a landing page, we definitely 100% get that billboard effect where we see spikes happen with overall submissions, even if it's not directly correlated back. But, it does end up, you do end up getting a bump for sure.
Yeah,
I agree. And I just felt like that was a piece we were missing, right? Because I don't mean to sound arrogant, but no one around here, maybe around the country, does social media marketing the way that I do it, and that our company does it. I started a Facebook group. A local Facebook group has over 70,000 members. Recently started another one. What's happening in Gulf Shores? It already has 45,000 members. So I had that part covered, and I had the community connections covered. I'm an attorney I'm still an attorney, but attorney by trade, I guess. And I worked for the city of Orange Beach for 3 years while we were kind of building our business before Hunter was like, all right, I need you full time with me. So I had all of that. It just was that one piece that we didn't have professional printed mailers, and we didn't have, the whole portfolio, which does matter. If you're going to meet someone and you want to show them your brand and has that thick card stock or a letter that you've drafted. And I'll tell you, Vintory is cheaper than hiring another marketing person or a director of marketing. And people are, oh, you could do that yourself. You know how to, work the Freedom of Information Act? Of course I do. But I don't have time for that. So again, time value money. I would rather pay a professional company that does this, that's all they do, to do that for us.
Yeah, right on.
Right on.
Well said. Well, let's head on over to number 10, and we can wrap it up after this as well on this side, Ginger. So number 10, spreading ourselves too thin, not delegating, being distracted by shiny objects. So it checks several boxes here for us. Hate to say, Ginger, but pretty much everybody said this. Tell us your story on these layers. We'd love to hear it to round us out here.
Yeah, I don't think I've touched on a lot of this throughout the conversation, but I just think there's a right time and place for everything. And even though one of my earlier answers was we should have started cleaning earlier, maybe everything has its right timing. And I tend to believe that. I believe in, manifestation, and some things happen for a reason. And believe in yourself, but at the same time, um, do what you're good at and stay focused on that, at least when you're first starting. Like I said earlier in our conversation, we did not do real estate sales up until this year. We couldn't do that because we needed to be focused on vacation rentals and we didn't have a large enough team. Well, now we have been fortunate enough to employ, I think, over 50 people now, including cleaners, and we can expand. Like we have the capital and the people to be able to handle some of the stuff that we were handling. So I just, especially when you're first getting started, or if you're going through a bump in the road, just if you're good at one thing, focus on that and let that start running smoothly before you start venturing into other side businesses. And maybe the answer for a company is to keep cleaning outsourced, or maybe the answer for a company is not to bring real estate in-house. And that could be your answer for how many ever years until you get your vacation rental company where it needs to be. And then you can think about expanding. But 4 years ago, 2 years ago, I don't know that we would have been ready to do what we've done this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I guess, a lot to unpack there. I mean, there's almost like two in one, right? The delegating, and then also obviously distracted by shiny objects. But I think Kevin Jones, formerly with Latitude 38, talked about with delegating. He says, in an effort not to fail, I tried to involve myself in all matters, know everything, be everywhere, and I forgot to trust the team. Set very clear roles and responsibilities, set expectations and goals, and then hold people accountable. You simply cannot do everything yourself. Jason Sprinkle almost echoed the same thing. He said, get out of the way. Find great people and get out of their way. I took way too long for me to get out of the way of the amazing CEO we found in Ashley. She was better at running the business, and I should have gotten out of the way much earlier and focused back on growth and sales. Most of the lessons here are things she and the team put in place once I stepped back. She taught me that if you can't get out of the way of your team leaders, you've selected the wrong leaders. I thought
That's
those
right.
two were spot on with what you were talking about.
Awesome.
Yeah, and this really applies more to my husband Hunter because I'm a delegator. I have that kind of like above ground vision. I don't have a problem delegating. He has a huge problem delegating. I mean, up until 2 months ago, he was paying all the invoices to our vendors. I'm like, why can't you give that to someone else? You can give them access to our QuickBooks to be able to just pay a check. Like, we have competent people that can do that and that will do that for you. And he finally listened to me, and his mental health is so much better. Things are taken care of. It's been a game changer for him. But that's a mundane task that someone is more than capable of doing. The person that we placed in this position, she was struggling at her other position, which was in the housekeeping department, but we knew she was a good employee because she showed up to work every day. She was dedicated. She just wasn't capable of being where she was on the bus. And we've moved her to this position, and she's a completely different person, a completely different employee, and her happiness has increased tenfold, and she tells us that every day. So now she's kind of Hunter's executive assistant, and is helping him with some of these tasks that he should have delegated out 2 or 3 years ago, to be honest. I love you, Hunter, if you watch this.
No, that's all love. I think giving someone that kind of advice and feedback is ultimately going to make them better. And some of us, takes us a while to let some things go, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they end up in the right spot, like you said, Ginger, maybe it happened that way for a reason. And maybe he had to feel a little pain before he let it go. And now it's going to be a lot better long term. Brooke, I think we've got one more on your side to round out our interview here with Ginger.
Yeah. So Ginger, if you could go back and give your 25-year-old self any advice, what would it be?
Okay, so at 25 years old, I was in law school, and I thought I was going to be a litigator, a lawyer, a badass courtroom lawyer my whole life. And I worked at an insurance defense firm where I was a litigator for 3 years. And I was not happy at all in any sense of the word. And I was overworked and just mentally not in a great place. And it was nothing like they show you on TV, right? It was not Atticus Finch and in this hometown lawyer. It was fighting over insurance money and things that didn't really matter to me. So I guess I would go back and say, keep your possibilities open. I would definitely still finish law school, but just because you become one thing doesn't mean you can't pivot and have opportunity and find greater happiness in a different part of your life or a different season of your life. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely happier. We're definitely making more money than I would have made as a lawyer. It would have taken me 20 years to probably, maybe not even then, to get where we are now with our business. And I should have realized early on that I'm not a person that can really work for other people. So, if you realize that about yourself, it will take you a little bit, because there were years when we first started our business where it was not pretty. Like, I didn't shop for 2 years. I went from making six figures at a very young age as a litigator to basically not having an income or barely anything for a few years while we built our business. And that was a hard transition. And it wasn't, I was like, are we going to make it? Like every day felt like if we could just get one more homeowner, if we could just get two more homeowners, and just getting over that hump. And then I still, even after that transition, felt a little guilty. I'm like, am I flushing my schooling down the drain? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing here in life? And finally, one day I was like, I'm really good at this and I need to trust myself. And even though this isn't where I saw myself when I was in law school at 25, like, this is where I'm supposed to be. So.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you, Ginger. We appreciate that. And so people can check out, we'll put links wherever you happen to be listening to this. We'll put links in the show notes to Ginger's LinkedIn profile. I think you can check out, she posts there sometimes, I see. We'll put a link to Beach Ball Properties in there. Certainly, if you're a homeowner by chance in this area, you should definitely reach out to Ginger and see what she has to offer. And if you're going to vacation in the area, check that out as well. But we appreciate your time today, Ginger. Thank you so much. And of course, Brooke and I will catch you on our next recording, sharing more about these mistakes.
Absolutely. Thank you. And come have a ball at the beach.
All right. Perfect. I like that.